Corso and Catone.
I think, well, listen, Mark, listen, hold on. When I say, would you have caffeine today?
What the hell is that up to?
Presented by Special Sauce Podcast, Studio 42 Design, and Corso Law Group. Now for the real deal New England feel, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe is in the booth, and you're with us watching on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you podcast. You can get us. But you want to go on YouTube, right? You want to see this. You want to see Mark's bright, shining face right now, ready to go.
Oh yeah.
He loves me.
Yeah.
So, but we want to hear from you in Heated Hotline, 855-313-PATS. Give us a call. Leave us a message 24/7. Anything's on the table. Have a take. We want to choose yours. So 855-313-7287. Got a good one today in Weekly Rewind. Who's April's fool? Are the Pats making fools of us? We'll talk about that. And Mark tells me it's a good one today. So stick around for Catone's comments. And, of course, we'll hear from one of you in Heated Hotline. And B's and C's, are we foolish to believe? We will discuss that. Do you get the theme today?
Yeah, we get it. Joe, tell them we get it.
We get it.
Well, it's April Fool's today.
Something about fools.
Yeah.
It's April Fool's Day. And, and we're also going to share a couple of little Joe, you want to do that now? Want to share a couple of little April Fool's, some of the things you've done to people in the past?
April Fools. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's April Fool's Day. Mark, what's the
What do you got?
have you what's the one you've done? You got to remember one, right? That you pull the prank on somebody.
All right.
Say it.
Well, a lot of mine, Chris, may be a little X-rated, but I'll try to keep it
Dig deep,
Sweet, Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Chris. I was never a big April Fool's guy. You know me. That used to drive me crazy. People used to make up stories. One day my wife come home and said, "Oh, I'm pregnant." I said, "What the hell are you talking about? Really?" And she said, "No, April Fool's." I said, "April Fool's. I was going to go jump off the bridge. I can't have another one." Are you kidding me?
Joe, that was last week,
That was last week.
Come on, really?
Really,
April
Fools.
Joe. What have you got, Joe? Have you done anything?
I'm not. Well, I've never been a big fan of April Fool or pranks.
No.
Because I'm not. It's like I never thought it was funny when somebody made fun of someone else at their expense and everybody's laughing. I was like, nah. But one time, there was this one time where my buddies got us a group of us a job doing landscaping, and there was like 6 of us, and we were there for like a little less than a week, like 4 or 5 days, and we were at like a school, like a academy school of some sort, in a huge place. People were still working, but it was summertime, so the kids were out, but like there were still people working the school, and we had to do landscaping around the grounds, and then at lunchtime, we had to take our lunch like earlier because they didn't want us commiserating with all the people who worked at the school. So one day, I don't know what came over me. I did the old unscrew the salt cap, thinking that one of my buddies was going to do it. But nobody ever used the salt. Not one of them used that. So I completely forgot about it. We left, and then, needless to say, at the end of the day, the dean at the head of the school brings us all in. He's like, "Yeah, I think we're gonna have to let you guys go." Had a few incidents here and there. Of all people, though, I was the guy who would never have done any of those things. Like every single one of them probably would have gotten us fired, but it was actually me. So they still let me hear about it today, to this day.
Hopefully you got paid up front.
Yeah, we got us all fired, though.
Hopefully you got paid up front. So I go back a long time. So, my sister, what we did to my mother once. Okay. So she was gone. I was thinking about this today, and I'm like, which one can I dig down and tell? Because like Mark, there's a lot of stuff we've pulled, and she was gone. we took everything when you walked in the house. It was like a raised ranch, and there was a living room and all that. So when you first walked in and up the stairs, we took like everything out of the living room and moved it down into the basement, right? And made a mess of everything. So it looked like we got robbed. Okay. So somebody broke in the joint. And then I pretended I got on the phone with the police and was calling it in. She was distraught. This went on for like an hour, of doing this to her. And then finally we all threw out April Fool's. She chased me around with a yardstick for about 20 minutes. So it's April Fool's, let us know. Call us in Heated Hotline this week. Tell us some of the funny things you've done. But getting back to reality, we want to go weekly rewind. Joe, are we ready for that?
Oh, we're ready.
Going back through the week, about a weekly rewind.
Who's April's fool, right? Are we are the Pats making fools of us, Mark? Okay. And so this week they had the NFL's owners meetings, right? In Phoenix over here, and all kinds of interviews happening. And we know how much Belichick loves that, right? He loves that friggin', he right away, he sits down and moves the microphone away, and he's just miserable. And he's always miserable, but he's extra miserable doing this. So some of the comments that came out, I want to talk about these because it's been going on all week long, this discussion. So they're asking Belichick about the one thing he's really getting lambasted for is what should the fans be optimistic? Why should the fans be optimistic, of what's coming next? And immediately, not much thought, said the last 25 years, which guys like Teddy Bruschi stood back and said, that's not what we hear in the locker room. That's not what we ever talk about. Mark, what do you make of that?
Listen,
he by the way, he came out and kind of backed off it today.
Yeah, because his mantra, Chris, has always been like, you never look back. You're always looking forward. It's on to the next game. It's you know what I mean? On to Cincinnati, right? That's always been his mantra and his philosophy. So they're saying, oh, the last 25 years, that's a bunch of BS, right? And if you want to play that game, well, listen, it's about what have you done for me lately, Bill? You've done nothing in the last 3 years, nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I don't care what happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Those days are gone, okay? I'm going to tell you why they're gone, because you don't have number 12 behind center. So let's just put the elephant in the room. You don't have number 12 in the goddamn room anymore. So don't refer to the last 25 years, Bill, because I don't want to hear it. That's a slap in the face to me, to you. Like, in other words, I can, so what, you're going to suck for the next 10 years and think you can get away with it? That was a shit comment.
Yeah, and then he backed off it because guys like Teddy, these are his guys. Teddy Bruschi's his guy. He came out and said, that's not what we hear from Bill. We never hear, last year was last year, last Super Bowl was last Super Bowl, yesterday's game was yesterday's game, we'll move on to Cincinnati. All these things, we don't go backwards. Well, now it suits him. So I think he caught himself later. The problem is he can't stand it. He can't stand telling us anything. He can't stand telling media anything. The only time he ever retracts anything or goes back, think about when he does it, to the people that he knows he owes something to. So, like, anytime it makes it sound like the players like this 25-year thing, now he's saying the same to himself, geez, this is not what I preach. This is going to be a problem for me with these players. So I got to go fix it. The money, we're the lowest spending team, 27th in the league. This is going to be a problem for me with the owner. I got to go fix it. Other than that, you're never going to hear him fix anything. He makes it all about him. He talked about Bill O'Brien. Why did you decide to bring O'Brien back? Because I have a relationship with him. I have it. It in his mind, it's all about him, Mark. It's all about him. And on the flip side, this is the problem. The whole thing here is the relationship between these two, Bob Kraft and Bill Belichick. It doesn't look good to me right now. This is icy because now you got Bob Kraft talking and this whole Lamar Jackson thing's coming out about, there was some information from a rapper or something who told Kraft. Meek Mill. I don't know. I have no idea.
Who Kraft is supposedly friendly with.
Yeah. It's a mix. It's an odd mix, isn't it, of friends he has. You wouldn't expect Kraft to be friends with Jay-Z rappers and, well, you know, anyway.
I mentioned Meek Mill. You're looking for Frank Sinatra. You're a dinosaur.
So he comes out and says Lamar Jackson wants to play for the Patriots. Lamar Jackson wants to play for anybody at this point, but he wants to play for the Patriots. Bob Kraft's response to that is, it's up to Bill. He kicks it in Bill's lap. I mean, we said it last week. This is cheap. This guy's never going to pay that salary. Mock, is it really up to Bill? I mean, what is happening?
Yeah, because Bill's going to write the check for $200 million, right? That's right. Bill's money.
What's happening with these two guys? What is the dynamic like with them?
Well, Chris, because I think Kraft. Maybe Kraft's listening to us every week. I don't know. I think Kraft is understanding that people are starting to call him cheap, right? And they're starting to figure, you know what I mean? So I think he's been getting some negative press, Chris, about the fact that he doesn't really want to spend money, right? So what does he do? He deflects and says, well, you know, that's Bill's decision. So in other words, when he doesn't spend money on a certain player or bring in a certain free agent, well, that's Bill's decision because, you know, I'll spend the money. Like it's almost insinuating, I'll spend the money. Bill don't want to, you know, he don't want to do that, then we don't do it. That's a bunch of BS. And I'm going to tell you why it's BS, Chris. Because of that damn letter he sent you the day after the season ended that you read on this show last week. That's the issue, Chris. You can't send that letter and then turn around and say that's Bill's decision because he's being a hypocrite and that's a bunch of BS. Then don't send that letter because that letter makes you look worse.
And he doubles down on it. Here comes the wrestling glasses. He doubles down on it.
There we go.
You know, for those of you on iHeart, I have these reader glasses, right? We've mentioned this in the past, and he thinks I look like the character Rothstein that Robert De Niro's in Casino. This is what he
looks like Sam Rothstein from Casino.
Sammy.
Right. So he doubles down on it, does Kraft, and says, you know, Bill's never come to me. And I'm paraphrasing. Bill's never come to me for money and not gotten it. He's never come to me about spend and not gotten it from me. And the day that I'm worried about spending money on this team is the day I sell the team. This was his comment.
Okay. Now give that
you
comment,
didn't pay Brady.
Give that comment a little slur and a little bit of like weak left-sided face sort of feel about it. Wow. That's what he sounds like.
Good. Joe,
I'm not going there, Joe.
I'm not going there either. You know,
I'm not touching that.
No, but he's right though. Listen, he's right though. I don't know. I don't know how engaged. Let's just call it that. Kraft is anymore.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
And yeah, I know. You know, he's engaged, all right. You know, he's engaged down in Florida. He's engaged to the 35-year-old. So look, the bottom line is this. If you were going to spend money, okay, I would assume you would have spent it on Brady. Look, Tom Brady came to your house. He didn't come to Belichick's house. He came to your house, okay? And my understanding, and again, nobody's in that room. Nobody knows what's being said, but Belichick wasn't there, okay? You went to Bob Kraft's house, and I can imagine if Kraft really wanted to, he could have told him at that moment, Tom, what do you want? What do you need? You need Drew Brees? You need $25 million a year? You got it. You need 3 years? You got it. So don't sit and tell us you're going to do whatever it takes on this team. But then, like Mark says, turn around and say, no, it's up to Bill. So you know what Belichick should do then? If I were Belichick and he threw that in my lap, I'd be like, okay, all right, Lamar, come on in. Jackson, come on in. We're going to pay you $200 million. We're going to guarantee it all. Sign. Yeah, it's all my decision, right? I get to do it. Wouldn't that what you would do, Mark? Just to be.
Listen, Chris, that's never going to happen. You know. Listen, Chris. Besides, he don't even want to. Listen, the reason they haven't traded for DeAndre Hopkins yet is because, first of all, Kraft's never paying that salary. So that salary would have to be renegotiated, number one. Number two, Belichick doesn't want to give up draft picks. He doesn't like to give up assets. So you got an owner who doesn't want to pay real money, and you got a coach who doesn't want to give up assets. So how are you trading? You know, so DeAndre Hopkins should already be a Patriot, Chris. So between the two of them, Like it's thing one and thing two, right? Bullshitter one and bullshitter two. That's what him and Kraft are doing right now, right? Thing one and thing two. So they keep playing the game with each other, but they're not bringing anybody in, Chris. What Kraft says, I'm very happy with the direction we're going. And he also threw in there, Chris, that, I think we're going to have a much better season. And he made reference to Bill O'Brien. But personnel-wise, you brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. Okay, you brought in a tight end for Miami. Offensively, how are you keeping up with with what we got on this roster? I don't understand how we can keep keeping up.
To say nothing on the defensive side of the ball.
No, I'm not even talking about defense, Chris.
Well, I know, you're right. You're absolutely right, because it doesn't jive for me that Bill Belichick has all the power, because look, you can't in one breath say Belichick didn't want Mac Jones. Okay, Belichick didn't really want Mac Jones. That was a Bob Kraft decision. That was the year that he was getting a lot of grief, and so in the draft room, so they took Mac Jones. Well, if that's the case, and we know that Belichick likes Lamar Jackson, we know he does. That's documented. So if it was Bill's choice, and we know he's pissed off at Mac Jones with his antics from last season, he hasn't given him ringing endorsements in the offseason or since December. Okay.
Well, Chris,
so if it was Bill's choice, why wouldn't he go get Lamar Jackson then? Because it's not Bill's choice. Right?
No. Hey, Chris, if he likes Lamar Jackson so much, why didn't he draft him? And he had an opportunity to draft him, and he passed on him.
Instead of Sony Michel.
Yeah, he passed on him. Right? He passed on him. And then, but Chris, how about the comment Belichick makes this week when they asked him about Mac Jones in the quarterback position, and he said they'll both have a chance to compete. In other words, Jones isn't the starter. He basically said they're going to compete. They're both going to play, he said.
Yeah. So, again, I don't know who to believe. I don't know who you should believe, because, once again, it's two guys going back and forth. My feeling is it's going to end ugly. So who are the fools, Mark? Who are the fools in all this?
The fan. The fans, right? And Belichick, Chris, gets away with it because of the attitude, right? Like you said, he's pushing the mic aside. He don't want to answer questions. Listen, the act's getting old, Bill. It's getting old. You want to talk about the last 25 years? I'm fed up with the act. I would have gotten rid of you. I don't give a shit about that record. Who cares about Schuler's record? See, Kraft's wrapped up in that record too, because he wants to make that a Patriot thing, because he's all about image. The Patriots had the greatest coach in the history of the sport. He coached for the Patriots. Not only does he have 6 Super Bowls, he also has the most wins in the history of the league. And no one's going to break that record, Chris, honestly, right? Because no one's going to have the longevity, and no one's going to be able to put together the wins that we put together over those years. So that's something Kraft wants, that, Chris. He don't care if we don't win any more Super Bowls. They're full of shit. Kraft wants that record too, because the two of them, it's, that's their egos. That's, Kraft wants to portray that as the Patriot way. Look what we did. And Belichick's ego at this point, Chris, is all about, he wants that. He wants Schuler's record. Okay, fine. But you're not doing anything to put this franchise in a good position for the future either. Because once Belichick breaks that record, he's going to walk off into the sunset. And now what are you left with?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense though, Mark. Think about it. Then if that's the case, and it would behoove him to break the record sooner, because the quicker you can break the record, the more it means, right? Yeah. Then you would be bringing in high-priced talent and not giving a shit about writing the check that the owner's got to cash. It wouldn't make any sense. I would think you would want. So this whole idea of Belichick wants to break the record at no matter what it takes. Like I want to break the record. I want to do it quickly, but I'm not going to bring the guys in to do it. None of this makes sense. None of it makes sense. And we're gonna try to make sense of it for you moving forward in the offseason as the draft approaches, because free agency is trickling away now. So we'll see what happens. Stay in touch. Stay in tuned. We want to hear from you in Heated Hotline. Who are the fools? We're the fools. So Weekly Rewind was presented by Special Sauce Podcast. What's your special sauce? SpecialSaucePodcast.com. Hey, when we come back, we're going to hear from one of you in Heated Hotline right after this.
It's the Special Sauce Podcast. You like the song? The sauce is good, huh?
start out as finance drive. Train them, trust them, and let them lead.
With your host, Marcus Aurelius. Tune in to Special Sauce Podcast, wherever you podcast. What's your special sauce? Time for Catone Comment!
Okay, I didn't think it was Catone's comments, but
Yeah,
that's
that's
okay.
my
We'll do
fault,
it. I thought
Joe.
it was Heated Hotline, Joe, but
Joe.
I'm ready.
Mark,
ready,
that's
Joe.
my fault. My fault. Catone's comments. Go for it.
All right, I'm ready. So, last week, right? So my mother-in-law has she turns 80. We had a party for her over the weekend, this past weekend, right? So we had some people over. We had the party at the house, right? So a big party at the house. So we have these people over. So you know what I hate? I'm going to tell you what I hate. I hate. And listen, we're Italian. We love to eat. Chris and I look at something and we put on 3 pounds, right? That's just the way it is. So you're going to watch what you eat. You're going to exercise. You're going to do whatever. But who cares? At the party, you enjoy yourself, whatever. I hate reformed fat people. And listen, I'm not being fresh. I'm not being rude. People struggle with their weight. People do a lot of different things. I'm not making any disparaging comments about people who struggle with weight loss. So I just want to put that out there. But I hate reformed fat people. Okay? Because, what are you eating? Is that a donut? Oh, do you know how many calories are in a donut? That isn't good for you. They're talking to a 7-year-old. A 7-year-old is eating a donut, and this woman who's invited, who's married to somebody in the family, comes over and is talking about the kid eating a donut. You know what, lady? Maybe you should shove 4 donuts in your mouth and swallow them. Maybe that would be better, so you could choke and gag and not talk anymore. How about that? How's that? Then the woman, she's looking around what everybody's eating. She's talking about, oh, do you know how many carbohydrates are in that? Oh, there's so much. Listen, lady, shut. Go have a steak. Do something. What? Listen, it's great. You lost weight. It's wonderful. Maybe you lost 80, 90 pounds. I don't know what the hell the lady lost. I don't care what she lost. But you're obsessed now with looking at what everybody's eating. You're drinking water. What are you eating? You eat a piece of lettuce. I don't know. Go in the backyard with the rabbits and eat the grass, maybe. What do you want from me? But nothing drives me crazy more than a reformed fat person. And it just made me think at this party, because this lady's walking around like a crazy lunatic. Listen, life is too short. I have people in my family who got some medical issues right now they're going through, and I don't know how much longer they'll be around. Enjoy life. Listen, you want to eat something? Eat it. You don't have to eat it 7 days a week, but eat it. Enjoy yourself. Do what you're going to do, but enjoy life. Embrace it. Now, don't ask, oh, you're going to eat a donut? Go, shove 5 of them in your mouth, for Christ's sake. I had enough. I'm done, Joe. Done.
Reformed fat people. Reformed fat people. I'm trying to get past that label. That's, you know what his problem is.
True,
Joe? He was at that party stuffing his face with whatever he could find.
Yeah.
Okay. Like he was eating like he was going to the chair, you know, and he heard this person in the background. He's probably going, you know, so Mark, you know,
Listen,
I'm with you.
I got a story. Chris and I, when Chris lived in Rhode Island, okay, we were out one night. I don't know what we were doing, drinking. I don't know what we were doing. We were out drinking.
This is the pizza story.
So we ended up back on my place. I was married at the time. So in those days, for those of you that don't know, on Federal Hill, Caserta Pizza, when you got the large pizza, Joe, remember that they used to give you the 2 boxes?
Oh, yeah.
When you got a large.
Yeah,
right?
remember that.
Way back in the day, right? They used to give you the 2 boxes. Well, so we show up at my house,
man.
might be 11 o'clock at night. I don't know. We got the 2 boxes. I don't know what's going on, right? Well, now it ends up being like 2 o'clock in the morning. Both boxes are empty. I don't even know how either one of us consumed that much food. They were empty.
Well,
You want to talk about eating?
well, because now it's legalized. So, you know. Yeah, listen, you know, back then I weighed probably 200. I'm a reformed. I weighed about 200.
Yeah, but you don't walk around critiquing what people are eating.
I could care less what people eat until you explode. I don't care.
Yeah.
This is not a PSA. Whatever makes you happy, do it. Just do it. For me, I looked in the mirror one day and said,
enough already.
college football, semi-pro football, and then I looked at myself and said, yeah, this is no good. This is just no good. But that's for me. But you know what? Whatever you decide to do. So, Mark, when you go to these parties and you're stuffing your face and you're around all these fat people, I'm one of those too. But you're right. I don't do that to people. Why? Like my kids. I want them to be healthy. You know,
Yes.
I want them to be healthy. I don't want anything, to happen to them because of excessive eating or whatever that is. I don't even know. But Mark, I don't even know what it takes to be healthy anyway. I eat nothing all day and then I eat at midnight. Like Joe's constantly trying to get me to take shakes. This is the guy you want to talk to, right, Joe? You're the guy with all the shakes.
Yeah.
I used to be heavier. But I'm a diabetic now. I watch I have to watch what I eat. I don't have a choice. But I don't walk around looking at what the hell people are eating. Jesus, but I remember I went to go visit Chris a few years back. It's like, I don't know. It's he's like a Dracula. He comes out of the closet at night in the middle of the night, right? He's all of a sudden it's at 1 o'clock in the morning. He's got red hots all over his chest. He's got more garbage out at 1 o'clock in the morning, and he's drooling.
I love red hots. This has gone completely off the rails at this point.
Off the rails.
It's it. There's no more. But this is what the people really want to know. This is the real deal, New England feel. Of course, red hots and pizza boxes. I'm telling you. Mark says he was heavier. I said I was heavier. Of course we were. We ate 2 boxes of Caserta pizza. Naturally. The oil. It was good though, man. I got to tell you, it was really good. I enjoyed that.
Falling off their game, but it's always been a good pizza, I think they fell off
you wouldn't say that if you lived here. And the pizza here.
People don't know how to make pizza in Arizona. There, I know.
You would appreciate it. So message to all reformed fat people: stay away from Mark. Let him eat his donuts.
From this guy.
Stay away from this guy. If you see him at a party, throw him a donut and walk the other way. That's it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Mark Catone's comments was presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. CorsoLawGroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. We're going to do Heated Hotline next, right, Joe? I want to make sure I do the right thing.
We're going to do something, Chris. We lost control.
For sure.
We lost control of that segment.
All right. So listen, when we come back, I promise you when we come back, Heated Hotline right after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CorsoLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. And so, as promised, we're going to hear from one of you in Heated Hotline. Let's hope it's not a reformed fat person. Let's just hope. Lambasting Mark. But Heated Hotline, Joe, let's have it.
This is Drew from Johnston. So baseball's back. Does anyone even care? Do you think the new rules will get anyone to watch this mess? and these babies are already pushing back on the new rules. Ridiculous. Thanks, guys.
Short and sweet. Short
Yeah.
and sweet. Thanks, Drew. Where was he from?
Drew from Johnston.
Johnston.
Drew from Johnston. Thank you for that call. So listen, we're bringing up, he's bringing up Major League Baseball. It's back. We're recording today. What is it? Thursday? We're recording on Thursday. This will air on April Fools, of course. But today was opening day. By the way, the Yanks won today with relative ease, and Boston lost the nail biter. But he brings up Major League Baseball and two things. Does anybody care that it's back? First off, and Maka, the new rules. He didn't talk about this, but are the new rules going to make a difference? I watched some of that today, some of this pitch clock stuff. And by the way, the Red Sox game today was probably 3.5 hours. So the Yankee game was about 2:45. So that was okay. That was, but first tell everybody what the new rules are, first of all.
Yeah, I just don't know, Chris. So the pitch clock, you got the pitch clock where you're going to throw the pitch within, is it 20 seconds, Chris? 24 seconds? 25?
15 seconds with no one on and 20 seconds with runners on.
20 seconds with runners on, okay. But you gotta start your motion just before that 20-second mark. If you don't, I guess it becomes a ball, right?
Yeah, it's a ball, and
right.
And the other thing is two-step off. So you can only do two pick attempts or two-step off.
I guess
for a batter.
The intent of it is to speed the game up, right? I don't know, Chris. I guess listen, it comes down to Chris pitching, right? So if you got a bad pitcher and there's runs being scored and walks and I don't know how much that's going to how much the game can speed up, right? It's going to take a little bit of time off, I guess. I mean, because it was getting a little bit ridiculous with these pitchers getting on the rubber, stepping off the rubber, walking around, doing getting the razzing bag and trying to get a grip on the baseball. Then they're back on the rubber. Then the batter backs on the box and they're fixing their helmet. They're pulling up their socks. They go through all these routines, right? So by the time a pitcher actually throws a pitch, maybe 35, 40 seconds goes by. So if you're doing that for nine batters, it can stretch out a game. So idealistically, it's designed to speed the game up. I think it remains to be seen, Chris, how much effect it'll actually have, right? At least that portion of it. We've got other rules we're going to get into too. But the pitch clock, we'll see. And the batter getting in the box, Chris, also has to get in the box quickly, much quicker. So it's both. It's not just the pitch clock, it's also the batter getting in the box. They're also timed, Chris.
Yeah, I saw that happened today. And I think it was in the Red Sox game, maybe. Yeah, where a strike was called on a batter for not getting in the box. And, it'll take some adjusting. The infield shift.
What do you think of those two rules?
Oh, I mean, look, anything that can be done. Yeah. Is it going to speed up every single game? No, but it worked in the Yankee game today. I watched the Yankee game. Okay. And Cole, the pitching was good though. Cole had 7 strikeouts today in 6 innings, 6 even, I think. I don't think he came out for the 7th at all. So 6 complete innings, 11 strikeouts. So when you're having that happen, the game's going to be shorter anyway. But I'll tell you the one thing I did notice when I was watching that, in hockey some years ago, not to cross sports, but in hockey a couple of years ago or few, they instituted a rule that they were going to go quicker on the faceoff, get onto the faceoffs, drop the puck quicker instead of all the skating around. And it worked. And that's the kind of sport where you can't walk away. You can't walk away because you're going to miss something. I felt that a little bit in the Yankee game today. When I was watching that game, I felt like I walked out of the room, I walked back in, and it was like another inning had passed. So I did see the fruits of it today in that game. Now, the Boston game was atrocious, but the pitching was atrocious. Mark, you're right. You're 1,000% right. You're going to have long games if the pitching's lousy and it's just a walkathon and, everybody's just hitting around the lineup. But I think for the most part, you're going to shorten games. I like the rules. I like the 2-step off rules. If they're going to enforce it, and they have to enforce it, they put too much into this. But do you think it involves the umpires? I mean, you had a problem with umpires being too much drama in baseball, too involved. This involves them even more.
Yeah, it does, but I don't. I mean, yeah, it does, but I mean, listen, it isn't that difficult, Chris, to make this work. I mean, if you're doing, if the players get into the routine, I mean, it shouldn't really have to involve the umpire. The bigger rule, Chris, that I think is going to affect the game more than the pitch clock and the batter's clock is the shift. The banning of the shift is, I think, going to have more of an impact on the game than any other rule change, because you're not, especially if you're a left-handed hitter, Chris, they can't shift everybody over to that right side if you're a dead pull hitter. So as a left-handed hitter, I think you're going to see, like even Rizzo for the Yankees, we're talking about the Yankees, you're going to see his average and his stats go up because they can't shift over on him anymore. They used to shift over.
Oh, it happened today.
Right?
He happened today. He was happy as hell. He's got a hit he probably would have gotten.
He got a hit he probably shouldn't have gotten, right? But the only thing with the shift, okay, and I think they're going to go a step further, I think, next year, now that it's been implemented. So the outfield can still shift. So you can shift the outfield is over, and an outfielder can come in, right? As long as it's still in the outfield grass. So you can so essentially you can take what you did with the infield and do it with the outfield and bring them in, because there's no line saying you can only go so far in. So I think that's going to, as teams begin to figure that out, that's going to become problematic. And I think next year you're going to have to set boundaries. If it becomes flagrant, you're going to have to set boundaries on the outfielders next year, because they're just going to try to circumvent the rules, which is a bunch of BS. You know what? Like the caller said, grow up, play the game. You know me, Chris, I'm a traditionalist. Play the game the way it should be played, the way it was taught to us when we were kids. Man up and do it. Forget all this bullshit analytics. We're going to put 4 guys on this side and 3 guys over here. Play the goddamn game the way it was supposed to be played. Man up, best team, best players win, right? The other thing, Chris, that they didn't make a lot about was in the shift. So in other words, you have to stay on either side of second base. So you can still move over the shortstop can still move over as long as he's on that side of the bag. As soon as the pitch is thrown, he can go to the other side. You can go in motion once the pitch is thrown. So essentially they could still try to hop over.
They could do it, but that's split second stuff. I mean, that's tough. That's
it
tough.
is. It is, because the pitch comes really so fast. But I think it's interesting that they left that in there, right?
Yeah, and that's, you made the point. The caller's point is valid. I mean, these guys are already being babies about it in spring training. You saw somebody got tossed the other day in spring training where, you know, it was Kimbrel who was the pitcher that really pissed off the umpire, and then he dropped the ball and the catcher moved his glove, and they're being babies. What they don't understand is nobody cares. Nobody's watching you, man. No one's watching you. You had to do this. So stop fighting it. Stop fighting it.
So, Chris,
but with
the other thing they did to try to, because you just said no one's watching it, so to try to get action back into the game, they made the bases bigger. So somebody was asking me the other day, well, what the hell is that going to do, having the bases bigger?
More stolen bases.
More stolen bases, because it's gonna lessen the length between each base.
Oh, more runners on too at first base,
right? The pickoff rule, right? The pickoff, stepping off the rubber changes the game, right?
We're gonna have more hits, right? Because you get the first base quicker.
Yeah, right. So it is going to help, right? It is going to help. So we'll see if that stuff eventually, Chris, kicks in and makes, you know, differences and changes. Listen, they got to try something, Chris. It's a dying sport. They're going to do something. It's a dying sport, you know.
So just real quick, I know you wanted to get into a little bit of what we think, a little bit of Yankees, Red Sox, but, you know, some of the division winners, we don't have a ton of time, but first of all, talk about the Yankees. I mean, who do you like let's stay with the American League, because that's all everybody around here cares about. So who do you have for division winners in the American League? Pick them.
So, Chris, listen, the Yankees should win the division, but they got a few injuries. They're gonna have to work through the month of April, because now Severino is banged up. Rodon, the free agent they picked up, is not starting the season, so they're a little banged up. They're gonna have to get through and patch together the starting pitching over the first 4 or 5 weeks. But if they can get through that, Chris, I just think you like you said, Judge in a home run today, right? They just got too much hitting, I believe, and they'll win. They should win that division. I think Cleveland will win the Central again. And listen, until somebody can prove they can knock them off, Chris, you still got to go with Houston. You still got to go with Houston out there. As much as I hate them, nobody can prove that they can knock them off. You know?
Yeah. And the Tampa will be relevant. Seattle will be relevant. Toronto is going to be relevant. And we may hear from the Angels a little bit too. And so as far as Boston goes now, you today was a perfect example of what you're probably going to see all season long. The pitching, the hitting's okay. They scored 9 runs today. They lost 10-9.
I told you that the other day when we were talking. You said, I think Boston's going to surprise people. And what did I say to you? I said, Chris, I don't think they have the pitching to surprise people. They're going to score runs. They're going to score runs. But I think you're going to see a lot of games like you saw today that the Red Sox are going to lose. They just don't have the pitching. They don't get the bullpen. They don't get the starters. Your opening day starter is Kluber? Corey Kluber? What is he, 40? Right. Really?
Well, that's that whole thing about Sale. They didn't want to pitch Sale in the opening. Hey, look, you're the ace. You pitch the home. You pitch opening day. No, he's pitching tomorrow. I don't even know what that is anymore. But over under for them wins. Red Sox 78.5. You got them over. You got them under.
I got them over 78.5. I think they'll win in the low 80s.
Yeah, which is still, it's a 500 team.
It's a 500 team. Maybe they're a little over 500, Chris. But I go over 78. What about you?
Okay. Yeah, I got them over that too. I got them maybe a little bit more. I don't know. I just feel like they're going to score enough runs, but we'll see what happens. And so the only other thing I wanted to bring up, because it's April Fool's, just really quick, is this kid. So happy for this kid playing shortstop for the Yankees. Talk about a moment for him, Volpe. But I got such a problem with how the hell did you see the video of Boone telling him that he made the team?
Yeah,
he pulled one of these, this is the toughest thing I have to do as a manager, making him believe he was going to get sent down or not brought up or put on the roster or any of that. This is kind of all that. And then he tells him, and it's like, oh, big deal. What I want to see, pull a move like that. I want to see a major league scene. I want to see where the player cuts him off before he can even get to the end of it and throw the friggin' ball across his head to the back and say, F you. The next time I pitch against you, I'm going to stick it up your ass, pull that kind of stuff. Or like, Joe, remember the Chris Farley thing on Saturday Night Live when we've replaced your coffee with Folgers crystals? And he loses his mind. Loses his mind. You son of a bitch. Tipping tables over. That's what should have happened to Boone. Tell the kid he got it. Don't do all that crap like you're 4 years old and it's April Fool's, right, Mark?
Hey, please. Listen, I'm not a fan of Boone, right? So let's not even get into Boone. We'll need a whole segment on Aaron Boone if you want to get into Boone. That's an entire segment, right?
So stick around,
Chris,
because
I will say this. Before we move on, I'm going to say this. I'm going to surprise everybody. My World Series champion, if they stay healthy. My World Series champion, if they stay healthy. San Diego Padres.
It's funny because we didn't have a lot of time. Joe's just giving us a little extension here. So it's funny you said that because I like the Dodgers over there. But that's a team, San Diego, that is going to be nipping right there all season long.
That's my surprise That's my surprise World Series champion if they stay healthy. Their pitching's got to stay healthy. They don't have a lot of pitching depth, but they got enough pitching if they stay healthy.
I got the Mets getting.
The only reason, Chris, I didn't take the Mets is because the Mets have got some injuries, and it's going to. Their number one, their closers out for the year. They got a couple of other guys that are going to be out the first month or two. Maybe.
Subway Series, man. Subway Series. Let's do it.
Listen, I pick the Yankees every year, but I just until they can prove to me, Chris, they can beat Houston. They can't beat them.
I know. I told you that story real quick. I told you that story. Somebody, when they were playing in the Subway Series years back, the 2 New York teams, he says, who do you like in the series? I said, New York. He said, well, that there are the two teams. I said, look, as far as I'm concerned, there's only one team from New York. And on that, Heated Hotline was presented by Special Sauce Podcast. What's your special sauce? Special Sauce Podcast. CORSOCATONE.com. Listen, when we come back, we're going to go B's and C's with the same foolish things as the theme right after this.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. CORSO Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to CORSOLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. CORSO Law Group.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. And so, listen, let's get some B's and C's in. Joe? So, Mark, looking at the Bruins, let's talk about that. So, keeping with the theme today, is it foolish to think that anybody can beat this team in the playoffs? They had a down one earlier in the week. They had a stinker where they lost, I think, 1-0. I don't remember who it was from against, but they lost 1-0. But they backed it up after that with an overtime win against Columbus. So, Are we foolish to think that anybody can beat this team?
I'll be honest with you, Chris. The way they've been playing, I don't know if somebody can beat them. If you're in a 7-game series, just the way they've played from the beginning of the season till now, Chris, they've almost gone wire to wire. I don't know if this team can be beat 4 times by anybody. I think they'll lose maybe a game or two, but to say somebody can beat them 4 times, Chris, I don't see it. I mean, if they stay healthy, and health's a big thing because of the age, right? But, Chris, I mean, if you look at it, they've gone box to wire, where they've just been the clear-cut best team in hockey. I mean, unless something real strange happens, I don't know if there's a team out there that can beat them 4 times. The only series, Chris, that could be difficult, maybe if a team gets hot, is the opening series only best of 5?
No, it's all 7.
7. So, Chris, I don't think anybody's going to be able to beat that. You and I have talked about maybe Tampa, one of those teams, right? But even
Carolina.
those teams, Chris, I don't know if they can beat us 4 times, Chris.
No, I mean, Carolina, if you're naming teams that could possibly be a problem.
Maybe Carolina, maybe.
They beat them in overtime last week. So, yeah, Tampa, Carolina. Carolina's the one, though, to me, that they could ramp up and do something.
I'm going to be honest with you, Chris. When you look at the West, those teams can score goals. They play a more open style, right? Where they can score. They're more explosive. Mm-hmm. Maybe one of those teams, if they get real hot and your goaltending starts to falter, maybe they could blitz you with goals and beat you.
Like
I don't think anybody. The style of play in the Eastern Conference, I think the Bruins should make it to the Stanley Cup, and then it's a matter of, does one of these West Coast teams that play this wide open type of hockey, can one of those teams just blitz you with goals and your goalies have a bad series? I guess conceivably, yes. But I'm going to say no, Chris. I think the Bruins are going to be Stanley Cup champions, and I don't mean to jinx them. That's just my opinion. I don't know what you think.
No, I do too. I mean, I think when you go out west and you look at Vegas and you look at Colorado, because I still think Colorado's talent-wise the best team in like as far as talent goes, the best team in hockey. Yeah. But I think the Bruins are the best. I think the Bruins are the best team. I think they got the best goaltending, both of them. And I just think that galvanized. I said that last week. I think that they're a team that genuinely likes each other, genuinely buys in. And so they have 7 games left, Mark. And I wanted to talk about, because I've been hearing a lot about Krejci did look tired the other night. They rested Bergeron, they rested Marchand. and I don't know if there was anybody else, but Krejci probably should have been one of the guys that rested. But now I'm looking at it. There's 7 games left. What's your take on resting guys now?
I would start to rest them, Chris, because you got your seating wrapped up. It's been wrapped up for a while. I would rest guys, Chris, because listen, this is their last ride together, right? Let's face it. This particular group of veterans, this is their last ride. They're not all coming back. Bergeron, you already know, is retiring more than 99%, right? So this is their last ride. Give them a couple more games off between now and the end of the season, Chris, because I honestly think you talk about their togetherness. I think you're going to really see them being together once the playoffs start, because they know this is our last ride, guys. Let's do it. Let's go out on top and do it, right? And you're going to keep them fresh, Chris. And if Omar is going to be your number one goalie coming out of the gate in the playoffs, and you're not gonna rotate like we talked about, that rotating of goalies, Omar's your guy. I might give him a little bit of extra rest going into the last 7 games too, so his legs are under him, because as a goalie in a 7-game series, if you got to stand on your head in a game to win one, you got to need your legs under you, right, to do that, because it's a long haul to get through the Eastern Conference, and then you're going to go play somebody from the West. I would even rest him a little extra the last 7 games, Olmark, rather than what they've even been doing with him.
I have a completely opposite opinion.
Of course you do, Joe. Of course he does.
Well, hear me out.
Wouldn't
Look,
be CORSO Catone if you didn't.
No. Here's the thing, okay? Here's how I look at it. It makes me nervous. Look, there's an 82-game schedule, okay? But a team like the Bruins, you're not playing 82 games. You're already building in a playoff run. I mean, most of these teams are gearing and they're conditioning themselves for a playoff run. So it kind of irritates me a little when I hear people saying, well, it's the end of the season. There's 7 games left. We got nothing else to play for. Okay, they got the record. They're going to try to go for 133 points to kill Montreal's that. And tonight they got the team record for wins. And then what's the other record they're looking for? 62 wins. That's the record by Tampa Bay in 2019. So maybe they break that. But it isn't even about the records. To me, it's the momentum. Look, these guys, the resting of guys needed to happen a month ago. That needed to happen weeks ago, in my opinion. If you were going to rest some of these guys and give them a periodic rest, that's when it needed to happen. Now we're in the home stretch. What I fear the most is sitting people down is the Indianapolis Colts thing, not to cross sports, but sitting your guys down. And even then you could see it more in football because it's a 1-game thing and it's only a week, But in this sport, momentum matters. Chemistry matters. You start sitting out the last 4 games, let's say, of the season out of the 7. Well, what's to say they're going to jumpstart that momentum again? Like, I'd rather take the risk of saying, hey, am I in shape to play an extra 4 games? That I got to rest another week. Or am I good enough shape that I geared myself up for a playoff run? It doesn't make any sense to me, especially with the goaltending. No, to me at this point, these guys are in good enough shape. They know their bodies. Go. Now, a couple of guys here and there, like a Krejci, okay, 1 game, a period. You could do it within the game where you're not giving them as many shifts, where you letting the 4th line double shift, go out there and do different things. Fine. But I wouldn't rest them. No, it's time to go. It's time to go. The playoff starts now. Don't screw with the streak. Don't screw with the momentum and get flat. That's what scares me the most about going into the playoffs. And you say, who can beat this team? Who can upend this team? They can do it to themselves. They're the only ones that can beat them. And if you walk into the playoffs flat because you rested and you're not in your routine, then you should be ashamed of yourselves for doing that, in my opinion. That's, different take, on this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what Montgomery does. They played tonight, and they got their record for the most wins from a Bruins team. So congratulations to them on that. And the only other thing I'll say about the Bruins, Mark, is the power play is broken. This team's like 6 for 59, 60. That's the problem.
Hey, Chris, in the playoffs, that can come back to bite you in the playoffs when you can't score on the power play.
It is. So you got to hope. Yeah,
You know
is there
that.
any way they can decline? Can they decline the penalties? Can they, like in football, you decline with decline? We'll stay 5-on-5. So pay attention
And
to
I'll
that.
be
And I don't know
honest with you, Chris. You are what you are, right? The old Bill, not to switch sports, but Bill Parcells, we are what we are. That's not changing in the playoffs, Chris. You're 6 foot, whatever. That you're not all of a sudden going to jumpstart that in the playoffs and start to score on the power play. That's just something they haven't been able to fix for whatever reason. That's not being fixed in the playoffs. So you're going to have to win without counting on that.
That's the one issue I have with Montgomery is that, you don't need Pasternak to be on every damn power. He doesn't need to play, 7 out of 8 minutes on the power play. No, he turns the ball over like, he leads the league in turnovers. Pasternak does. So get him off the power play. Get the fourth line out there. You know what I mean? So jumpstart it. So we'll see what happens there. And on the other side of the coin now, we got the Celtics. So are we fools to think that they have a shot to win the championship? Are we fools to believe that this team's going to win a championship? Now, they kicked the ever-loving crap out of Milwaukee Thursday night. They just – I think it was I'll look up the score. But are we fools for that, thinking they can win?
No, Chris, we've said it all year long. I think they're the best team. Listen, if Robert Williams is healthy, they play, they do what they're supposed to do, and they can play defense. Their issue to me, Chris, is their defense isn't consistent enough. They go in streaks. They have a good game, a bad game, a good game, a bad game. In the playoffs, Chris, you're going to have to put together a string of real good defensive games. If they can do that, Chris, we've said this over and over. I don't think there's anybody in the East. And tonight, I say other than maybe Milwaukee, but they blew Milwaukee out, right?
41 they won by.
Yeah. So Milwaukee maybe is the only team in a 7-game series that could give you something. But honestly, there's no reason why the Celtics shouldn't be NBA champions either, Chris. And out West, nobody scares me out West, Chris. I mean, okay, Durant's trying to come back again.
Nah, that's a joke over there.
How much does he have left this year? I mean, he's going to try to come back from another injury. So I don't necessarily know if you're ever going to get a healthy Kevin Durant this year. So if that's the case, forget Phoenix. The only team, Chris, if they catch fire, that still scares me, and you can say I'm crazy, is Golden State. For whatever reason, mentally, it's just going to be a battle of a series if they make it. But I don't think Golden State is getting out of the West. I don't think they have it this year to get out of the West. So the West, I'm going to be honest with you, Chris, the Western Conference does not scare me. If we make it to the finals, I wouldn't be surprised if you win the championship in 5 games. Nobody out West scares me unless Golden State finds a way to sneak in.
Well, because they can shoot with that.
Golden State, Chris, is like the old Patriots. They with Brady, the team that went into Arrowhead and beat Mahomes. They got the heart of a champion. If they get in, it's going to be a war just because of the guys, the veterans they got on that team,
Because they can shoot with Boston. That's why they can shoot with them. And that's the,
what do you think? Do you think they can be stopped? Do you think they'll be the champions? Or are they fooling us?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't. If you asked me a week ago, I said absolutely not. I had them out in the second round, like against the Sixers or something like that. Now I see him, play the good teams. I see him play Sacramento. I see him, kick the ever-loving crap out of Milwaukee. And by the way, everybody played. So they go to Milwaukee. So you look at a situation like that and you say, well, they get up for the good teams and they play like crap against the Wizards and get blown out of the building. So you wonder, okay, all teams are pretty good in the playoffs. So that means to me they're going to get up for all these games. That's a dangerous thing to do, Mark. And so to me, once again, like the Bruins, the only team that can beat the Celtics is the Celtics. That's the team that can beat the Celtics. From coaching, from attitude, from leadership, all the things, from Tatum going in the toilet and just kind of shying away from the moment. Jaylen Brown getting pissed that he's not getting the last shot because he scores 40 when Tatum sits down, and he's saying to himself, geez, I could get 40 on my own team every night. What do I need this guy for? All this is creeping into their brains at the wrong time. They're the only team that can beat themselves, right?
Yeah.
Oh, heavy ogre.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens over the last, 8 games or something like that. I don't know if they're going to have a shot at the number 1 seed, but it bodes well that they can go into Milwaukee and do what they did tonight over there.
Absolutely.
With fully staffed. Williams played. Big difference. Big difference. So Corso and Catone was presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Hey, listen, get on, watch all our shows. They're up for you to see, listen to, subscribe, give us that thumbs up. Come back next week, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to continue to talk Celtics Bruins as they gear up for the playoffs and more Major League Baseball action as they start ramping up their season. Catone's comments, your heated hotline calls, and anything else you bring to the table, we will be ready for. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. April Fools.
Find Corso and Catone on iHeartRadio, iTunes, or wherever you podcast. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, Corso and Catone, and catch the chaos at 7 p.m. on Saturday.